What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another game day update. It is our summer league edition. Right now, the Grizzlies are in Salt Lake City. They're down in Utah. They're coming off a big win over the Jazz Blue, 104-65. They got another game today against Jazz White, the other Utah Jazz team, who's also coming off a win. Yesterday, they won over the Spurs. So it's going to be the first loss for someone coming into today's game. Mike, let's take a quick rewind back at yesterday's game. What you liked about that game specifically. Let's start with the guys that were on the Grizzlies roster last year. Desmond, Bane, Xavier, Tillman. What'd you like about those two?
Well, I looked it up yesterday, Kelcey, and I saw that I counted it all up. The Grizzlies starting five had guys that played in a combined 206 NBA regular season games last season. So they went in with continuity. And Coach Darko talked about that. He talked about how they wanted to set the tone with those guys, having that continuity coming in. And as you mentioned, Desmond Bane really was the catalyst for that. You know, Desmond's ball handling and facilitating, but also Xavier Tillman's ability to be tough from the moment that the game started inside was huge to me, and that stood out for me. What about you?
Yeah, I liked both of them. I think we talked a lot about what we wanted to see from these two guys. We wanted to see Desmond, continue to have that three-point shot that he's so good at, but also try and get himself into that ball handling and that two-way scoring. And I think, he had 12 field goal attempts. Only 4 of those were from the three-point line. So I like that he's starting to, drive more, find his confidence in the mid-range. I like that a lot. And then X, he had a big stat line. He had 11 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists to go along with that.
Yeah, when you talk about those two guys, and they both spoke after the game, we'll get to Desmond in a second, but just the fact that they're upperclassmen now. They didn't get a summer league last year, but they got training in the regular season action. Both of those guys touched that very same floor 4 months ago in the playoffs. So this is a situation where they both said they wanted to bring the same level of intensity from the postseason to the summer league debut. And we saw that. This team went up by 30 quickly. They had a couple of 15-0 runs. All the stats lined up from the Grizzlies from day one, from the very start of this game. And that was good to hear. But to your point about Desmond, in addition to the shooting, he also has committed to working on his playmaking and facilitating. And that's what the Grizzlies coaching staff has challenged him to do this coming summer or this summer. And he talked about that after the game.
Just being able to play make for myself and play make for others. They got me on the ball, which is a different role than I played during the season. So just getting comfortable being able to play at a pick and rolls, DHOs, handoffs, and things like that.
And Des and X were great, Michael Wallace, but we had some of the younger guys do really well as well. So let's start with some of the guys who were on the G League squad last year. They've been in the system, in the Grizzlies system, running the Grizzlies plays and the philosophies with the Memphis Hustle. And that is Shaq Buchanan, who had 12 points. And Ahmad Caver, I was so excited to watch him play. He had 8 points and 8 assists.
Yes, I mean, those guys, again, we talked about the continuity with Dez and X and Conchar and Tilly and those guys. But you also had continuity from the Hustle guys. Those guys have been in the NBA G League too. And that's supposed to be a step up from what we're seeing in Summer League in terms of competition. I remember when Shaq came into the game, he hit a baseline jumper, came right back, stole the ball on an inbounds pass, made a diving layup. I mean, just in like 4 seconds, he had 5 points. And that's the kind of energy and effort that those guys, Caber and Buchanan, bring too, piggybacking off of what we saw in Dez and X. But then they're also, we're waiting on the first round picks, the rookies to come in. They'll be here in a couple days. I tell you what, 2 other rookies came in and basically exploded off the floor when you look at what Romeo Weems did and also Yves Pons. You talked about Yves when we did our preseason, our pre-summer, preview, but he lived up to every single thing. I mean, his dunks, his highlight plays were phenomenal. What did you like about those 2 guys?
Yeah, I think so. Yves Pons came in, he had 12 points, but I don't think, and 12 points is great. We applaud that, but I don't think the 12 points quite can say what he brought to this team. He's so athletic. He can block. He can dunk. He gets up and down the floor so well for a big guy. I think a lot of fans, and I know Twitter is like not the place to go to get like your analysis, but I think a lot of fans are excited about his ceiling and where his potential could be. And that's just after 1 game. So I love to see that. Again, he's the SEC player or defensive player of the year. So he has that potential to be that stopper. And with the athleticism that we saw yesterday and how well he's fitting with Des and X, I think it's really exciting moving forward. And then Romeo Weems, the forward out of DePaul, this stat line actually got me. 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists and 3 steals. He went out there and just balled out. This was his tryout, I'll put in quotations, into professional basketball. And I think he exceeded expectations.
This is a guy, and I'm gonna call him a guy. I was about to call him a kid. He just turned 20 years old in June. So this is one of those, he's the youngest player on the initial roster that was listed for Salt Lake City, 2-year player at DePaul. And he really, the thing about Pons and Weems that stood out to me, neither one of them were considered like knockdown shooters. They combined to knock down all 4 of their 3-point attempts in Tuesday's debut. So they're showing growth in their game after just getting here just a day or two ago, it seemed like. You know what I mean? So we're seeing that progress, man. And I can only hope that the Grizzlies can return to action on the court tonight and show some more progress. It's going to be difficult to build on a 39-point win in your debut, but they're certainly going to go out there and give it a shot.
Okay, let's go real quickly about today's game then, because we saw Jazz Blue yesterday. We got Jazz White today. Now, Jazz White, as I mentioned, is coming off a win as well over the Spurs. And I'm going to say 2 guys had big games that the Grizzlies are going to need to try and stop today. Trent Forrest had 19.7 assists. And then Azubuike, he came in with 8 points, but 14 rebounds. This is a guy who played on Utah last year, didn't get a ton of minutes, but he's a big guy. And he came out and just cleaned up the glass.
He did. And he had an ankle injury that kind of slowed him down last year. But now he's basically trending towards being in that backup to Rudy Gobert this year if he can find some minutes. And it's one of those situations where he's going to give himself a shot if he can continue to rebound like that. That's why I'm totally looking forward to this game. I don't know what the Grizzlies coaching staff has in terms of who's going to be available on a back-to-back. It is a back-to-back. You don't want to burn guys out so early. But I would love to see Xavier Tillman and Azubuike go up against each other. One had 14 boards last night. X had 13 boards. It's going to be a physical matchup potentially between those two. I can't wait to see that aspect of tonight's game if we get a chance to see it.
And let me just say one thing, Mike. Imagine that matchup, and then imagine X needs a little breather, and the backup to X is Yves Pons. I'm okay with that.
Somebody's getting dunked on, and somebody's getting a shot swatted tonight. We know that one way or another for sure in this matchup. I'm looking forward to it as well.
All right, today's game. We can watch it on NBA TV again, Mike?
Yep, 8 o'clock tip, and all the action is going to be there, and we'll see these developing guys continue to develop. I'm looking forward to it. So catch all of our Grizzlies content and all of our analysis on Grind City Media at grizzlies.com.